I received an advance copy of Katherine Ramsland's book as a courtesy. I hope it will be helpful in the fields of criminology and mental health to aid in the recognition and capture of individuals like my father. But personally, Ramsland's book about my dad is a surreal nightmare of nightmares. It's only in the past year that I'm healed enough to be able to try to process this magnitude of insanity that my dad is speaking of. It's startling to see the depravity that he hid. His selfishness, egotism, and narcissism are on full display in this book. He appears to relish being interviewed and continues to play games at others' expense, including my family's. My family and the world have known since the time of his arrest and trial that he is a sexual sadistic psychopath. But I don't know that man. As I have said in the past, I knew my dad primarily in one way, as a decent man, a good father. And yes, Dad sometimes caused harm in my family, as I've spoken about before in the Wichita Eagle. Those rare times of harm, though, were out of character for him. Dad mentions my Grandma Rader often in this book. I have nothing but fond memories of my grandparents who I adored. They were loving, caring people who I spent a lot of time with. My family, including my dad, were very close to them throughout the years. Dad is responsible for his own actions, no matter what may or may not have occurred in his younger life. He chose this life. He chose to murder. At any point, he could have turned himself in. He could have asked for help before he made the terrible choices he did. He didn't have to marry my mother, nor have us kids. He chose to have a family, and he chose to drag us through his insanity. I and my family learned of the depths of his actions and the consequences of his terrible choices on February 25, 2005, the day of his arrest. We learned these horrible things along with the rest of the world. 10 people, including 2 children, were murdered by him in the decades before. 7 families were destroyed by my dad. My family, the 8th family of victims, were ruptured apart on the day of his arrest. Those who lost their lives should not be forgotten. The victims' families should not be forgotten, nor should the terrible impact my father has had on the community of Wichita. We should remember those who were lost and honor the memory and legacy of Ken Landwehr, who led a large group of men and women in the capture of my dad, preventing any more harm to befall others, including my grateful family. Even 11 years later, it doesn't seem possible that the man who raised me and my brother, who cared deeply for his family, could remotely be capable of what he did. I've spent the past 11 years working on acceptance that this nightmare of nightmares did actually happen. It started 4 years before I was born and still daily affects my life and the life of those I love and care about around me. It daily impacts the victims' families and has caused a great deal of harm and cost to the community of Wichita as a whole. I've struggled with forgiveness, struggled with understanding, struggled with putting the ruptured pieces of my life and my family's life back together. It's an ongoing struggle, but life, hope, love, truth, justice, these things continue to fight for what is good and right. These things continue to fight through the dark of dark. These things, the things that are good and right in this world, will continue to outweigh the nightmares.